My name is Chris Finley and I'm from Woodstock, New York. As it was reported in last week's edition of the Woodstock Times, the Onteora Board of Education has decided to disband its Wi-Fi task force and push ahead with increasing Wi-Fi in its schools. On the 17th of January 2016, Dr. David Carpenter sent me directly a copy of this letter where he is pleading with Bobbi Schnell, President of the Onteora Board of Education, to abandon any plans for wireless communication within schools, but instead focus on wired connections where the children will not be exposed to excessive electromagnetic fields. This is Dr. Carpenter's reasons. Dear Mrs. Schnell, I am a public health physician who served as the co-editor of the Bioinitiative Report, published in 2007, as a comprehensive review of the adverse health effects of radiofrequency electromagnetic fields. I am a public health physician who previously worked for New York State Department of Health, and in that capacity was the Executive Secretary of the New York State Powerline Project, focused on the question of whether there were adverse health effects from high voltage power lines. That study showed that elevated electromagnetic fields were associated with elevated risks of child leukemia. While that particular study did not investigate radio frequency fields such as those from Wi-Fi, many of the risks are similar. There is a strong and consistent evidence that excessive exposure to excessive radio frequency electromagnetic fields has adverse human health effects. Of particular concern is the clear evidence that children are more vulnerable than adults. The best documented adverse effects are an increase in risk of cancer, but cancers do not appear immediately upon exposure, but rather come later in years. Within a school setting, there is increasing evidence that excessive exposures reduce learning ability, which is the last thing one wants in a school. Some children will also develop a syndrome of electrohypersensitivity, where they get headaches and reduced ability to pay attention and learn. While these effects are not nearly as well documented as those relating to cancer, they are particularly important within a school. This is especially the case in a wireless computer classroom, where exposure can be very high. However, there will be essentially no exposure in a wired computer classroom. The exposure levels of the Federal Communication Commission are totally outdated and do not protect the health of the public, especially of children. I urge you to abandon any plans of wireless communication within the schools. It is, of course, critical that all children have access to the internet, but when this is done through wired connections, they will not be exposed to excessive electromagnetic fields. Yours sincerely, Dr. David O Carpenter, MD. And I've got a copy for everyone.
Greetings. This is a letter from Martha Herbert, PhD and MD. I am a pediatric neurologist and neuroscientist on the faculty of Harvard Medical School and on the staff at Massachusetts General Hospital. I am a board certified in neurology and special competency of child neurology and subspecialty certification in neurodevelopment disorders. There are thousands of scientific papers that have accumulated over the decades and are now accumulating at an accelerating pace as our ability to measure impacts becomes more sensitive, that document adverse health and neurological impacts of EMF RFR. Children are more vulnerable than adults, and children with chronic illnesses and/or developmental difficulties are even more vulnerable. Elderly or chronically ill adults are more vulnerable than healthy adults. Current technologies were designed and promulgated without taking into account biological impacts other than thermal impacts. We now know there are a large array of impacts that have nothing to do with heating the tissue. The claim from Wi-Fi proponents that the only concern is thermal impacts is now definitely outdated scientifically. EMF RFR from Wi-Fi and cell towers can exert a disorganizing effect on the ability to learn and remember, and can also be destabilizing to immune and metabolic function. This will make it harder for some children to learn, particularly those who are already having problems in the first place. Powerful industrial entities have a vested interest in leading the public to believe that EMF RFR which we cannot see, that's electromagnetic radiation, by the way, which we cannot see, taste, or touch, is harmless. But this is not true. Please do the right thing and take the precautionary thing for our children. I urge you to step back from your intention to go with Wi-Fi and instead opt for wired technologies, particularly for those subpopulations that are most sensitive. It will be easier for you to make a healthier decision now than undo a misguided decision later. And I just wanted to give each of you these copies.